right, everybody, we're going to go ahead and get started. I hope that everyone has already created an account, or if you hadn't already, you're in the process. Has everyone gotten into their EndNote account so far? All right. All right, so welcome to our EndNote web workshop. This is it's a fairly short introductory PowerPoint here, and then we'll get into just a lot of examples and how to walk through how to use this stuff. Couple terminology things. First goals. Okay, we want to. I'll talk about how to set up the plugins you use for EndNote. I'm hoping that most people have already done that, but if not, we'll get that. All the plugins we'll need are already installed in these machines. And then we'll work on developing skills to collect, organize citations in EndNote, and then also use those with the Word plugin to use the citations that you've collected. And I'll show you how to create a standalone bibliography as well, but Cite While You Write is the real magic. That's why we promote this so heavily. It's very useful. Library terminology I'll be throwing at you. I'll use the word database. I might also use the word index or an article index. I kind of mean the same things. These are things like the EBSCOhost brand of products or Web of Science, things like that, things where you go and find scholarly information out there in the library resources that we subscribe to. Citation and bibliographic management software are things like EndNote. There are other options out there for you. Mendeley is one that's popular, Zotero, Reference Manager. I mean, there's a variety of options like this. This is just the one that I support here at the library, but if you find other ones out there that you prefer using for one reason or another, we can try to help with that. It's just that this workshop covers EndNote specifically and the things that it does well. And finally, the RIS file format is something that I'll be talking about a lot, so keep that in mind. When you're downloading citations from a database, an RIS file is generally the type you're going to get. There are some systems out there that use different file extensions for the information they download, but an RIS file is your friend. If you see that as an option, most of the time it'll work with EndNote. I'll be referring to those a lot. This is slightly getting out of date. They're getting better about this. We have historically called this workshop EndNote Web. That used to be the preferred terminology that the EndNote people use for this product as well. They've sort of been working away from that. They also have the standalone EndNote software, which we have through the University Bookstore at a discount. It has some extra features. It's standalone. It doesn't require a network connection to use. But it is not free. The EndNote Web functionality we'll be talking about today is a free product. EndNote Basic is sort of what they try to call the online component if you're not a purchaser of the full EndNote software. It has a very bare bones functionality. We have a little bit extra stuff above the Basic because of our subscription to Web of Science. Because they're owned by the same company, they give us some extra features, and I have administrative rights to the campus account, so that the main thing that it gets us is a lot more citation styles for when you're using Word. And because we have this extra thing, I can add additional styles to that list if we need to. I'll cover that more later. It's just that if I talk about EndNote Basic or EndNote Online or EndNote Web, these are all essentially the same things for our purposes. It's different websites still refer to them in different ways, which is sort of frustrating. General hands-on stuff we'll be doing here in a minute. We're going to be importing citations from databases into your EndNote. Oh, yes? Your account with EndNote is separate from your affiliation with the university. If you sign up with university email address and from campus, their system can recognize that you've come from someplace that has that Web of Science subscription, and they'll keep you in the system for a year. Every time you sign in, they'll re-enable that for a year.
So if I use my Gmail, then also it will work?
It should still work. If you have problems, we can contact EndNote support and associate your account with this university, like manually, and then it'll still work that way. It's just if you leave the university, you'd want to contact them so they can change your affiliation so it doesn't lose track of you. But in general, your email address should be independent of your affiliation with this university. You can change it later if you want, even.
Because just you told like it has a little more function than the basic one, so I was wondering like how it works.
They track what the IP address that you're coming to their system from. So if they recognize you're coming from this campus's network, they'll automatically see that, and that's how they keep track. They just flag your account for a year. And every time you sign in from our campus, they'll re-enable that full year. Okay. All right, so we're importing citations from databases to get stuff into EndNote. We're going to organize the citations you get into your EndNote account. So if you're working on multiple projects, you can have multiple folders set up so that you can keep things organized. And then export a formatted bibliography. So if all you need is a list of citations for a paper, you can do that. But there's also the Cite While You Write, which lets Word automatically generate and format your bibliography as you're writing. All right, so that's it for my slideshow. So if people want to bring up a web browser, if you're already in your EndNote account, I ask you to leave that open, but open a new tab to get to the University Library website. First thing I'm going to show is that I'm going to open a new tab for this research and course guides, and just show that if you search for EndNote, a lot of what I talk about today is available in this EndNote and EndNote Web library guide. So if you don't remember something I've talked about, and if I'm not available for whatever reason, you can always look here first, and most of the stuff I talk about is at least covered here briefly. If this isn't enough, you can always feel free to contact me. Email is really easy for me to get back in touch with you. But however you need to talk to me, that's fine. Just start off with, this is a resource available to you. All right, so from the library website, I'm going to open the Article Indexes and Databases link. And to start off with, I'm going to go to this Academic Search Premier. It's an EBSCO brand index. So anytime you see this, the functionality should be similar, no matter if it's a general purpose index like Academic Search Premier, or if it's a subject-specific one like ERIC for educational-based stuff. I'm just going to do a general search. You can search for whatever you like. I'm just searching for Fox because it's easy. And if you run your search and look for something that looks interesting to you, there's a couple ways you can proceed. You can either click on the title of an individual article and bring up its full record, or you can click on the little folder icon next to the title, and that puts everything in a folder, a working folder that, so if you want to download multiple citations at the same time, it can generate that automatically. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on several things, and then I click on the folder icon up at the top. So it just has my list of the 4 things I clicked. And I'll wait here if people are actually looking for articles that you actually want. I know sometimes people actually try to find stuff they'll use later during these things, so I'll give you a couple minutes. Looks like everyone kind of ready? Okay, so once you get this far, over on the right side, there's this little button for export. I'm going to cover a couple other examples, other databases as we go, but just in general, something like this is what you're looking for. Export or send to a bibliographic manager. I mean, there's different language depending on the vendor, but something like export. So here's a couple options. We have this RAS format, which is what I talked about, but EBSCO databases also have a direct export to EndNote Web. And this usually works fairly seamlessly. I'm hoping it does this time. I can't guarantee it. EndNote's login screen recently changed, like less than a month ago. They changed their login procedure, and that broke some functionality on other vendor sites. So EndNote branded stuff should work still fine, but since EBSCO is owned by a different company, I can't say this is going to work, but we'll work around it if it doesn't. But hopefully soon they'll have that fixed. Click on save. Okay, so it sent me 0 because it screwed it up. So instead of doing the direct export, I'm going to fall back to the old RIS file format option. I'm going to download that instead. It's downloaded a file for me. And if anyone has this little icon, if you look at the file format, does anybody not have that little symbol? Okay, because this is something that they recently added to the plugin, the downloadable plugins for Word and Internet Explorer. That this should just be able, I can open this using my EndNote account now. And remember, this is your EndNote login, not your campus login. Everyone should eventually get something like this pop up, where it tells you how many references it exported to the system. Is everyone getting that, or is anyone running into problems with it? Okay. Yes? Aaron, can you take a look? If you want to double check, I'm going to click OK and go back to my EndNote account. And if I refresh all my references list, I now have those 4 items showing up. If everyone else wants to verify that they actually have the things they tried downloading. We're good? Okay, great. All right, so that's basics of the RIS file format and how to get it into the system. So any EBSCOhost database, this procedure should work. I'm going to go through another procedure for how to get stuff into your EndNote account, though, because not everything works with that plugin. Does anyone here use PubMed regularly? No? Okay, well, it's an easy example I know that requires the other procedure, so I'll go ahead and use it anyway. All right, so from the article indexes and databases, I've gone to the list of P titles, and then PubMed. And I'll just do another search for something similar. All right, so this one will have slightly different language for how to get stuff into EndNote. So this one allows you to just use checkboxes instead of that folder system that EBSCO uses. But up at the top, I have this little send to link. It has a citation manager option. I'll create a file. And, apparently NBIB. Okay, so PubMed uses a .nbib file format instead of an RIS. That's just sort of an idiosyncrasy of them. I'm going to ignore the fact that I could open this with the automated system, and I'll show just the procedure for manually adding things to EndNote. If you go to back to your EndNote account and click on Collect, and then Import References. You just need to tell it 3 things. You need to click on the Choose File to tell what file you want to upload to the system. So my download folder, there we go. I have to tell it where I got this. I didn't think I had favorites selected, but apparently I do. All right, so I have the short list here. PubMed is one of the options. Does everyone else have a very long list? All right, so the reason my list is so short is because I've selected favorites. So here's that full list that everyone else should be seeing. In that, I had found previously the PubMed option, and I had selected it and copied it to my favorites. So if you find a set of systems that you're using regularly, you want to add them to your favorites so only those show up as the options. One, yes. Well, okay, so when I was at PubMed, I told it to download the file. It sent it to my downloads folder. So I just went there, and because I have such a short list, I know that this .nbib is what I found, yeah. All right, so I'll cover this a little bit more briefly later, but I just want to move on from here. And then I tell it what group I want to put it in. Unfiled is just where EndNote drops anything that you haven't sorted before. You could also, from here, select new group and then create a folder for, let's say if you're working on a project, you want to put everything in one group. I'll go ahead and do that now. I'll say new group, click on import. I give a name to that group. Like if it's a name of a project you're working on or a class you're working on or with. And it tells me I've imported 3 references. So if I go back to my references, I now have that Fox group listed. And here they are. Has everyone got that to work? I'll go through another example here just with what we've already done. If I go back to collect and import, I'll choose a different file. This is that RIS file that I downloaded from EBSCO. And again, RIS is widely available. It's a very generic. It's one of the oldest file formats for this type of bibliographic management system. So most databases will have that as an option somewhere. It's very widely usable. That's why I like telling people about it and keep hammering on it. That it's really something you want to be using. From the select favorites, again, I had chosen this RefMan RIS. This list has a lot of very specific databases listed. So if I wanted to go to ERIC, which is an education database, we have it from a lot of different sources. We have an EBSCO version. There's also ones from Ovid or, let's see, I forget what some of these others stand for, but we have several options to tell it where you got this reference from. If for whatever reason the one you're wanting to use isn't in this list, or if it doesn't work, like they've changed the way the system works on these import options, if you have an RIS file, this RefMan RIS will almost always work. So I recommend that if you're going to add like one thing to your favorites list, it should be RefMan RIS, because when all else fails, if you have an RIS file, try that one. All right, so my RIS file at RefMan, I'm going to do that Fox group again. And there I go, I have my 4 references again. Okay. Any questions on that so far? I got a couple more examples like this I want to run through just because they work slightly differently. Okay. Well, back to the library website, back to the article indexes and databases. This time I'm going to pick Google Scholar, everybody's favorite. I'll do another search for Fox. And a specific thing about this that is useful is, well, for one thing, Google Scholar doesn't allow you to multi-select. You can only select one article at a time. Usually what you'd have to do is click on this little cite button and then copy one of these options. Instead, I want everyone to click on this little down arrow up in the corner. Then on settings,
Can you start from the starting Google Scholar?
I just did a search at Google Scholar. Are you at Google Scholar?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you run a search, it should have this little down arrow up in the corner.
Actually, I don't know from where to start.
Oh, just library website, I'm sorry.
And go to
article indexes, and there's a link for Google Scholar right there. I'm sorry, I didn't go back far enough for you. All right, so again, Google Scholar it's a very broad topic area. It's not subject focused at all. But if you do your search and go up here and click on Settings in the drop down, there's this Bibliography Manager section. If you click on Show Links and then change this to EndNote and save, now your search results should each have an import to EndNote link below each item. And again, assuming that the EndNote login page hasn't totally screwed this up, if I click on that, okay, it's just downloading a file now. All right, so this ENW file format is another one that's very commonly used. It's, EndNote Web specifically is what that's from. If I go back to EndNote and look at my import options, again, I've selected favorites ahead of time. This EndNote import is the one that corresponds to that .enw file extension. So if I choose that file for my downloads, and EndNote import and my old group, that should work as well. It's a bit frustrating with Google Scholar because you have to click on them individually, but it is, Google Scholar is so easy to use, a lot of people still like using it anyway. But adding that single link under each item does speed things up a bit because you don't have to click like 3 times to get the information you want. One more thing I want to show as far as getting stuff into EndNote is here from just the library website itself. If we start here in the quick search and just do a search, I get a bunch of options. If I click on an individual title that I want to cite, and then on Actions over on the right side of the Details window, there's an EndNote option here as well. And this is another one that should be seamless. I hope it will be again if it isn't now. I'm not hopeful given how long this is taking. All right, I'm going to go ahead and cancel this. Again, hopefully once EndNote gets their login screen fixed, this should work just automatically. I'm going to try the export RIS option instead here, just so we can show as an example. Let's go ahead and stick with that. All right, so it's just giving me another RIS file that, like every other time. Click on that. And I get a notification that it uploaded it. So even if you're searching for books in our library catalog in Quick Search, you can cite things directly like that too, just because we do have that functionality over here in the Actions menu. Does anyone use any specific databases that don't use an interface that I've shown so far? I can try to cover specifics if people want that. No? Okay. All right, well, I'll just move on then. The other options for getting stuff into EndNote are also this online search lets you search for things within the within the EndNote interface. So we have an Iowa State University option. I can click Connect. Again, this might work, it might not because they've changed things. I usually don't recommend this because this actual login procedure is sort of hit or miss. I have varying success with using this. But some people like searching here just because there's none of this downloading a file, uploading it stuff. Because it's all already in the EndNote website, if you find something this way, you can just send it right to your account. It's very, very seamless. And this, assuming that the login procedure works, it would work automatically because you're already in the system. This does not look like it's going to be friendly to me today, so I'm going to skip it. Just know that that's an option. You can play around with it if you like, but I have varying success with it. The other option is new reference, assuming it doesn't just hate me entirely for forever. Come on, EndNote. Well, while I'm waiting on this, I'll just describe it. Under new reference, it's basically just a blank form. So if you have an article or a book in hand and you just want to create a citation without having to search for it, you can just fill the information in manually. If you need to edit a reference that's already in your account, you can do that too. It's the same interface. You just click on the title of the article you want to edit the reference for, and just you go in, you can edit the author, title, year. All that information is editable by you. And new reference just lets you do that from the ground up instead of starting with an existing reference. I am really frustrated with this. I'm just going to close my browser entirely and start over. So 1 second, please. Okay. All right, so we've got everything in EndNote. Let's say I want to create more groups. Looking at my list here, it's not the most easily navigated thing, but if you want to move things into a group, you just check them from the list, anything you want to move. And then up here is the Add to Group list. You can either select an existing group or you can click on New Group. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And it creates a new group off to the side that has everything that I told it to move. You can have the same reference in multiple groups. You'd want to start at the list of all my references, and then you can move them individually. I note that I uploaded the same file a couple of times, so I have duplicates. There is a way to check that under the Organize section. Organize, find duplicates. It will try to identify anything that's the same reference, and will check all but one copy, so that then I can just hit delete and clear that up. So if you've gone, if you're at several different databases, you run big searches, pull in big files with a lot of references, and you just happen to have picked the same thing multiple times, it's an easy way to find the things that are duplicates and get rid of them. Also under Organize, there's Manage My Groups. So I've created these 2 groups today. EndNote lets you share your groups with collaborators. So if you're working with somebody else on a paper, you can click on the Share checkbox so that it's now shareable, and then click on Manage Sharing. It'll show how many different email addresses you've shared with, and if you haven't had any, you can start sharing this group. The dialog that opens up should just have a text box. It should open something at all. All right, well, it should have a box that lets you enter 1 email address per line. So you'd want to have, if you have working with multiple people, you just want to make sure you're using the email address that they are using for their EndNote account. Because it's not tied to your university ID in any way, it's just, if you know the email address they're using for EndNote, you use that email address here when you're sending the sharing. Second thing, it does not tell people that you've shared something. They don't get a notification via email that somebody shared a folder with them. So you want to make sure that if you're working with a collaborator, you're telling them that you've shared a folder. This is still very frustrating. One more time. Okay, here we go. All right, so this is what it looks like. You can also upload a text file, so if you've got a list of collaborators already shared, you can do it that way as well. But it's the same thing, just 1 email address per line. You have the option to set it as read-only or read and write. So if you just want people to be able to see the list that you're working from, you want to use read-only. If you want them to be able to add references or delete references from that list, you read and write. It's just that simple. Attachments, if you want to attach, I'll show attachments here in a second. If you've attached a PDF of the article to your reference, that is not shared. It's a copyright thing. So if you've attached a file, you have to send that to them separately if you want them to see it. All right, so attachments. Back to my references. Each reference has the little paperclip icon. So let's say I've downloaded this article, and I want to make sure I have access to it whenever I'm using my EndNote account. I can click on that paperclip, click on Attach Files, and then I would just choose the file from my download folder or wherever I've put it. I'll put up my PowerPoint slides just for example. Click Open, then Upload, and there we go. Now the icon is blue, and it shows that I have that PowerPoint slides as attached. So if I go home and log into my EndNote account from there, I could then download that file to my computer wherever I am. I don't know how widely people use this, but it is handy to be able to keep files close to the references you're using, just as a general thing. Unfortunately, there's no automated way to upload these things. You have to do them one at a time. And there's no easy way to go from a PDF you've already downloaded to the record. You'd have to find the reference in a database and download that separately. You can't just use the PDF to generate a citation. It's a frustration I'm aware of, but it is just the way that EndNote works, unfortunately. You can always try this Get It at ISU button, though, because if we have it available electronically, hopefully that would be able to find it. I'm about ready to give up on trying to link. Okay, so with this one we have full text in lots of places, so I can just click on that, and I could download the PDF from this page and then upload it. All right, so that's getting stuff in, moving it around. Okay. Any other questions on how to organize things within EndNote once you get it in there? No? Yeah.
Getting it ISU, it's like it will work from the campus or it can work from...
You should be able to work on this anywhere. Anywhere you can get on the internet, you should be able to get to your EndNote account and work on it.
Account is okay, but it's like if I want to get my paper, suppose I have a reference there, but I want to get the paper,
If you've saved it, it should be available. If you want to find it, if you want to use the Get It at ISU, as long as you're coming through the library website, you should be able to log in with your library sign-in information, and that will get you access to the papers. The Get It at ISU link should include that information. Like if you click on that, it should first send you to the library login, and after that, all this stuff should be available. Okay. Let's manage groups. All right, so let's say somebody else has shared a group with you. If you wanted to use it for Cite While You Write in Word, there's one other step you have to do first. Under Organize, there's Others Groups. And you have to check this box for use for Cite While You Write if you want that to work. Again, you probably don't have anything here until somebody actually shares something with you, but that is just one step you want to keep in mind so that when you're trying to use it in Word, you can access it. Unless you check this, it will only search your references, not the ones that have been shared with you. All right. One last thing while we're here is the bibliography. So under Format, we have this bibliography option. So if I want to take a list from one of my groups and pick a style, I'm just going to pick APA because it's easy. Assuming I could find it. Okay. And then I can generate it for like an HTML if I just want to put it up on a web page. I can do that. RTF is a file format that's openable in Word, so it'll retain any formatting that's important, like italics. You can use a plain text file, but if you're using a citation style that uses stuff like italics, I don't recommend that because a plain text file won't keep that information. So it's either HTML or RTF. I'll show that real quick. So I've generated an HTML file, so this is a web page. So I've generated a citation list of 2 things. And I could do that with any of the different citation styles that are available. And this is the main thing that we get from our Web of Science subscription. If the EndNote Basic that doesn't have that component to it only has 20 styles or so. They're the most popular ones like MLA, APA, Chicago, stuff like that. But we have thousands of individual journal styles. And again, if there's one that you need to be using that's not in this list, you can contact me. I'll see if I can find it or upload it or make one from scratch. I've done that several times. So just if you have problems finding a style you want, here's where we can do that. Another thing I want to point out while we're on the screen is another select favorites. So much like that import option in the collect phase, this is where you can set a favorites list, and this will be imported to Word as well. So if you know there's a style that you want to be using, like APA, you can copy that to your favorites. Or if you have others, if you have a specific journal that you know you're going to be using, let's say I'll use this one just because, you can create a custom list instead of having this full, huge list in Word every time you want to pick a style. But it will only have the ones you've chosen available. It will never, you can't, if you've selected favorites, Word can't go back to the full list unless you've cleared your favorites out here and then reloaded Word. So I want to pick at least one more here that I know is going to be useful for an example later. Okay, I'll pick an IEEE style. Okay. So I picked some favorites. One last thing. Okay, so we're going to be moving on to Word now. So any other questions about using the website and getting stuff into it?
This style is like fixed by the genre.
I'm sorry, what?
How do you decide like which style?
Usually, a lot of different specific fields will have particular styles. Like I know Chicago style is used more in the humanities than in the sciences. The APA style is used a lot in the physical sciences and psychology.
Is it like suppose you want to publish in some particular genre, they will give you the style?
Yeah, most journal websites will have a name for their style. If they're using something like APA, they might just say, we're using APA, so use that. Other times they'll have instructions for authors that'll have a description, but a lot of times people have already created these styles to conform to the styles as required by the journal. So if you know you're publishing in a specific journal, look at the list, see if it exists already. If it doesn't, then maybe look at their author instructions to see if they're saying just use this one. And if it's neither of those, if it's a custom style for their journal and it's not in the list, then you can contact me and I'll see if I can find it for you. Okay. All right, so one last thing you want to do is the downloads. And again, this has already been done on these machines, but you'd want to set this up on any computer that you're going to be using this for regularly. What you want is the Cite While You Write section. So under downloads, Cite While You Write, there's one for Windows, there's one for Macs. Those are the only two that are available, unfortunately. I don't know of anything that's available for like Linux. But you'd want to download the one that's appropriate for you and install it. If you run into problems with installing it, let me know. I'll try to walk you through it. But again, that's already done here. What that gives you is the Cite While You Write plugin for Word, and also the, that automated plugin for when we download the RAS files, I could just click on it and it would ask me to log in and it would upload the stuff. That's also part of this package. So it's very handy. I know that exists for Windows machines. I don't know if there's anything like that for Mac, so you might have to do the manual uploading on Macs. I haven't played around with them recently enough to know if the most recent version includes a tool like that. All right, so once you've installed that on your machine, though, you just want to go to Word. So let's get started on that. Let's open a blank document. Everyone should have an EndNote tab up here. That's how you know the plugin's been installed properly. Clicking on that, it should prompt you to log in. So I want to point out that the style dropdown just has the things that I selected for my favorites. If you haven't selected favorites, this will be a very long list, but last time I looked, this dropdown is not long enough for the full list. So if you haven't selected favorites, you might have to click on this little icon here, and this list would be the full list. So just keep in mind, if you're getting something that's farther down than about the J's, I think, in alphabetical, you might have to either select it as favorites or come to this little sub-menu to get the full list available. Okay. All right, so under Preferences, here on the middle right, if you select Application, here's where you can tell it to remember your login and password. You don't necessarily want to do that here because these are public machines, but on your personal computer, it's handy to fill in your email address and EndNote password just so you don't have to log in constantly every time you open Word. Okay. All right, so we're typing. I'm just gonna, let's see, the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. All right, let's say I want to cite something about foxes here. I put the cursor where I want the citation to go. I click on Insert Citations. I do a search of some keyword. It could be an author name, it could be a concept, it can be anything that will let you identify the paper you're trying to cite at that moment. So because I did a lot of Fox searches, I have a lot of options here. I'm going to go ahead and pick this one. And at the bottom, I click Insert. It puts the parenthetical citation where I wanted it, and then at the end of my document, it starts building the bibliography. If I select a different article, if I put my cursor here, I said, oh, I want to cite something else earlier, I can go ahead and click this one, Insert, and it will automatically reposition things as necessary. I'll try one more just as an example. And note that because this one, the author is Sanchez, but it's alphabetically after the other two, the reference list at the bottom has them in alphabetical order because that's what APA requires. If I were then to switch to a different style that doesn't use alphabetical order for the references, it will automatically change the order in the reference list to reflect the rules of that citation style. This is where it's the whole EndNote thing becomes really helpful when you're writing, because you can switch from one citation style to another, and we can have it automatically keep all this stuff updated for you. You don't have to go in and renumber all your citations manually. You don't have to do anything like that, because EndNote should know all the rules and will apply them as you go. That being said, if you ever see something that's being formatted wrong, let me know, because I can edit the style definitions. So it's similar to creating a new style. If you find something that's an error, I can try to fix it. Of course, the information it has here is only as good as the information it's given. It's possible that the error isn't in the style definition, but it's in the reference you pulled from a database or whatever. So if you're seeing something that's not showing up right, there's a couple options for why it might be going that way. One thing I want to point out, for example, is this article that I downloaded from one of my things. Note that it's all caps for the title of the article, because that's what the database that I got it from, that's how it was formatted there. If I wanted to change that, I would have to go into my EndNote account and manually edit the record for this to make it not all caps. Another thing to point out is that some citation styles require you to abbreviate the journal titles in the citations. EndNote Web cannot do this. The full version of EndNote can. That's another feature that the full software can do for you, but the EndNote Web interface is just not robust enough to be able to do that. So I don't know if people are using styles that typically use abbreviated journal titles, but EndNote Web cannot do that by default. You could also go into your EndNote references and edit the journal names manually to be the abbreviations, but that's time-consuming and sort of a hassle. But that's just the nature of EndNote Web. It can't do that. Yes?
If I have a document that already broken up with the citations and references in my hands, any way I can upload that EndNote to another document?
Did you use the Word reference tools to do that? then no, unfortunately there isn't. If you've already formatted everything, there's no way to just automatically capture that information and put it into EndNote. If you find the references, get them into your EndNote account, and then just go through manually and add them at each point as you go, you could then delete them, but again, this is most useful if you're using it as you're writing, not when you're done writing, for that reason. Again, I wish it could, but I'm not aware of any system that can go from a complete document like that and go backwards. If somebody had, I did have one person last time I ran a workshop, somebody had used the Windows references when they were generating their file, and it can do that because it's still structured information built into the document, but unstructured stuff that you just typed in, it can't capture that. Yeah. One other thing about styles, though, is I know that there are some citation styles that use footnotes or endnotes instead of this inline citations like this. It's a slightly different procedure if you're going to be using that, unfortunately. I don't think I picked any styles that use those. Okay. They're not my favorite, so I can't pull it up right now, but I know like Chicago style is one that uses footnotes. It's not quite as seamless to go back and forth between a style that uses footnotes and one that doesn't, because footnotes have to use Word's built-in footnote tool. So if I go to, let's say I have my cursor where I want to put one. I would go to References and click on Insert Footnote. Of course, if you're using this a lot, you can just remember that Alt-Control-F will insert a footnote. And it will automatically put the footnote marker in place, so the 1 here. And then you would use the EndNote's insert citation in the footnote area. So again, I don't know how many people here use footnote styles, but it's a little bit more work to use footnotes with this tool. All right, so one other thing under, so this? All right, so under this, the same little corner menu, under Layout, there's also a place you can put a bibliography title. I just like pointing this out. It's not strictly necessary, but if you want to have that automatically inserted, you can have that too, just so it breaks it out from your text a little bit. It's possible, again, to edit the information that's down here, like if I wanted to type some more stuff in. But anytime I do anything that requires it to update, it will revert those changes. So if there is something that's just like one thing that's wrong and you're done writing, you just want to save a copy and send it off, you can manually change it and then save and then send it. But anytime that anybody updates anything or adds a new citation, it will revert any changes. So just keep that in mind. Because anything that it's formatting on its own, it only knows to follow the rules. It doesn't know to keep track of anything you type in manually. I know that some journals, that when you're submitting, like part of the author instructions is that you can't include field codes. At least that's the term I've seen most common. What that means is you can't turn in an article that has all these EndNote things built into it. You can get around that for when you're completely done with your editing, you've got the style set up the way you want it, you're ready to go, you would want to save a separate copy, and then use this Convert to Plain Text option. That strips out all of the EndNote information. It just makes everything on the screen what's there in the file. The Cite While You Write tool will no longer update anything, but for some journals, if they require you to not have field codes or something like that, if they need it to just be plain text, there is an option to automatically save a copy as that plain text. But it is a one-way conversion. You can't go back, so I always recommend saving a separate copy before you use that feature. That's, I think, everything that I had as far as stuff I wanted to talk about. We have the room for another half hour or so. Usually this is how long it takes. If people want to stick around and play around with it, and me and Aaron will stay here and help answer any questions. Does anyone else have any questions right now before we just let you play around for a while? Yeah.
As far as, I know this is the online version.
Mm-hmm.
How do I sync it to my desktop version? Just going back and forth.
In the desktop version, I forget what menu it's under, but there is an option for sync. When you tell it to do that the first time, it will ask for your login information. It will ask you to register your EndNote web account to your desktop version. It'll take a one-time, like backing up your library sort of step, and it will take a while for the first time for it to sync everything. But after that point, every time you open your desktop version, I think you can set it to not automatically do it, but it should automatically attempt to sync your records between your online account and your desktop version. The desktop version, there is a feature there to like try to automatically find and attach PDF files, and those I think should also upload when you're doing a sync. But that's, I forget if that's the case really or not. But yeah, there is a sync option that should let the two talk to one another. It's definitely simpler. I mean, it's just that there are some features that if you need them, like that abbreviation thing, that the full version is useful because it allows you those other options. I also know that the full version lets you share attachments with up to 14 people. So if you're collaborating with somebody and you want them to see your PDFs, it's a lot easier that way. I know that EndNote X8 is supposed to come out next month, so we're currently on X7 for people who've just recently purchased. And the one feature I've seen on that so far is that the shareable group is up to 100 people. So you do also get more storage. Like if you're uploading a lot of supplementary material and PDFs and stuff, there is a limit to the online version if you don't have a full desktop version. But I don't know anybody personally that's hit that limit. I mean, it's a couple of gigabytes, so you have to upload a lot of stuff to hit that, fortunately. But there are a couple features that it is nice that the full version can do. But for most people's general purposes, the web version is sufficient, especially since we have all those different styles to choose from. The desktop version is just a one-time purchase. Like I said, we have it available through the bookstore. If at a discount, it's still like $90 last time I looked. I mean, the full version normally costs like $250, $300 if you buy it directly from them. When you do that, you get all the subscription stuff that we get because of our status here at the library. You get that automatically if you've purchased. So if you were a private person off somewhere else, not affiliated with the university, if you purchased EndNote, you would still get all of those styles, and you can define your own styles. So if you've had a journal that you needed a style for, but you didn't have somebody like me who could try to work one up for you, you can create your own. But that requires you to pay for it.
But what is the benefit of taking the desktop version rather than using
It's available offline, so if you're ever somewhere where you don't have access to the internet, you can still work. Like you can still, I mean, because of EndNote Web being, all of your stuff is stored in the website. If you're working on just your document, you're just trying to write, you're not researching, pulling in more references, you still need that internet connection just to access your list of references in the website. If you have the full version, that's all local to your machine, and you don't have to have the internet connection. I know these days you can get on Wi-Fi pretty much everywhere, so it's less of an issue, but that is one feature that is nice about the desktop version. It's just, it's right there.
So it's like this EndNote is just for the references. It's like I can't see the abstracts and anything.
Depending on how you've downloaded the references. Let me see if I got any on mine. I don't know if I did necessarily. Yeah, for example, this one, when I downloaded this reference, it included the abstract. A lot of different databases will give you the option on whether or not you want to include stuff like that. Some reference lists are just going to be the bare bones, the stuff at the top, only the stuff it needs to build the reference in Word. But a lot of them these days will also include an abstract if you let it. Yeah?
So on Zotero, you just click and drag your PDF into there, and you can also have your reference
Right.
attach that PDF.
Yep.
How do you have your PDFs in here attached to these references?
Like I talked about briefly, you can use a little paperclip to upload a file. That's how you attach it. Yeah. That's another thing the full version can do. If you have a reference for a PDF, you should be able to add it fairly easily. Just drag and drop again. I know some systems, I don't know if Zotero does, I kind of get the feeling it does. I know Mendeley does. If you have a PDF of an article already and you drag and drop, it can build a citation for you. EndNote is not as good as the others in that. The full version of EndNote can do that too. If you have the PDF available, it will do that. It has a multi-pane view for that, but it doesn't. EndNote's an old enough product that they were focused on the citations, and they kind of added the PDF functionality sort of as they went eventually. Things like Mendeley and Zotero existed in a time when PDF article downloads was the norm instead of this new thing. And so they handle PDFs a lot better than EndNote does. It's one thing I know that Mendeley, I haven't used Zotero personally, have you? Okay, so I don't know exactly how seamless it is, but I know that Mendeley, I can have a folder full of 100 PDFs, drag and drop them, and boom, I have citations for all those articles. Mendeley is a free product. It has a web sync version, but it also has a download that you have to have. So you have to have, it's a free download, so you can download it and have it on your machine. But you can't just go straight to the website without having the download on the computer you're working on. But it is a free product that does the PDF handling, and it does abbreviations.
So for Mendeley, it's like you have to download the PDF, then it works everything.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the same things apply. If you download an RIS file, Mendeley could handle that too. But it's just the case that they are better at parsing a PDF of an article and building a citation out of the information it gets from that. I've seen some cases where the full version of EndNote will do that, but most of the time the citations I wind up with are terrible. They're not well formatted. It's true. It's there. Like I'll have the title of the article will be all the full citation of the thing, and that's it. Like it doesn't have anything as an author, doesn't have anything as the year or the journal name. It's just all the information you would expect. In full version of EndNote, if you're trying to build a citation just by dragging and dropping a PDF, if that's what you have, if you've already got a list or a big folder of PDFs, you might want to go with Mendeley at least to start, just to generate your list of citation information. But because they all talk with this RIS file format, if you like the way that one of them works when you're actually working better, you can export your full list of citations as an RIS file or something else, and then upload that into the other system, and that should work just fine too.
Do you do some workshop for Mendeley?
We do. It's already happened for this semester though, but Michael Bobb, B-O-B-B, is our, like I'm the EndNote guy, he's our Mendeley guy. So if you want to find his contact information, or I can find it, if you want to know more about Mendeley, you can talk to him. I mean, I can answer some questions, but I just don't use it as much as I know EndNote, so fine details, he's probably a better person to talk to than I am. It's like I'm not paid by EndNote or anything. I'm well aware of their limitations, so I'll talk about them. Yeah.
So in some journals they have great formats, and you can even download their output style.
Mm-hmm. Like they have a link for the EndNote style.
Yes.
With the web version, you can't do anything with those. However, if you have the full version of the software, you can save that and install it on your computer, or you can tell me about it. Because I have, so the administrative tools here that I have that you guys don't, I have the site bibliographic styles. I can add custom styles to our account here at the university. So if you found a style for your journal that's not in the list already, you can send me that file and I'll put it in the system. And there's plenty of those available. Like if you just go to endnote.com/downloads/styles. If you have a specific journal you're looking for, I mean, I don't know if this is actually going to pull anything up, but yeah. So if I wanted to find this style, they have a download link. I download this .ens file, and I just upload that to the website, and then it'll be available for everybody. All right, so like I said, we have like a half an hour, so if people want to just play around, try to find stuff that you're actually going to use, put in your EndNote account. If you run any problems, we'll be around to help work with that. If you're done. If you want to go, we just ask that you fill out the evaluation sheet and leave it at the back before you leave. And yeah, so have a good rest of your day, and just wave one of us over if you have questions. Yeah.
I was able to see that on
Yeah, see, this is what I expected. We pull
Yeah.
PDF over.
so, well, the only reason it showed up like that is the way I saved it.
Okay.
So some of them I saved.
Mhm.
For instance, go to.
Like I said, I kind of have hit or miss success doing this sort of thing.
So if I go right here, some of them I saved with detail when
Okay.
I named it, and other ones I didn't. So if I go to, let's say, colloids, for some reason some of them show up and some don't.
It's probably a matter of which way, like where you got the file. Different
Yeah.
databases are going to name the things different.
Yeah. So I'll have to. I can just go and just edit.
Yeah, yeah, right.
But
Right, but it's frustrating in that you'd like to be able just to drag the PDF over and do it, but that's I know it's one thing a lot of people would really wish, and I would wish EndNote would do it well, but it just doesn't.
This is the simple. I
Yeah,
think.
yep.
But
That's
I went there. What happened?
well, it just
But this is not the username. How can I change that?
okay. Oh, is that what you registered your EndNote with?
Yeah, and it was like, well, if you didn't have it, you can use your LinkedIn account. Whatever,
Yeah.
But I don't want to.
I've not worked with people who have created their account and then have tried to sync after the fact. We might have to contact EndNote support, but EndNote support is very, they're really good. I get quick turnarounds if I ask them a question. If you just say, hey, I've set up you could also just set up an EndNote online account using that email address.
So just go back and just do another one.
Yeah, that should work. If it doesn't, again, we could just contact EndNote support and say, hey, we want to associate this account with this EndNote purchase,
Okay.
and then they should be able to do that manually.
And then what did I do with it?
Oh, I still got this on. I'll be right back. I want to turn off the recording I'm doing. You're welcome.